Chapter 7. A Bit of a Mistake. Ben stared at the closed door. He could not believe that Cenopod had walked out on them like that. I mean, just because that woman promised him a palace and handmaid as an ass's milk. Anyhow, I don't know why you're blubbing, Carrie. A giant sniff came from the crumpled heap on the floor. Carrie raised her head. I'm not blubbing. I'm upset, that's all. And so is Crusher of Worms. Look, he's scratching at the door. He wants Senny back. In fact, Crusher of Worms was getting rather frantic. He leapt up at the front door. He scratched it so hard that his claws left deep grooves down the wood. At length he began hurling himself at the door as if trying to break through it. Ben watched all this with a growing sense that something was wrong. I think Tiddles is trying to tell us something. Yeah, like he wants to go out. Do you want a tiddle, Tiddles? Something's up. You know how sensitive that cat is. He always knows when something's wrong. Ben considered the cat for a few seconds more. Then he came to a decision. He reached down, grabbed Carrie by the arm and hauled her to her feet. Come on, we're going after him. What? That slimy creep? You've got to be joking. Ben had opened the front door and he watched as Tiddles shot out and began trotting quickly up the road. Ben pulled his sister out after the cat. We're going to follow Tiddles. He's sure to lead us to Senny. I reckon there's something fishy going on. There's something about that woman that I don't like. Something about her eyes that reminded me of someone, but I can't think who. I just know that she's bad news. Carrie hurried along beside her brother rather reluctantly. Do we have to do this? No, you can go home if you want, but I think Senny's walking into big trouble and he's going to need our help. Serves him right, panted Carrie. Maybe, but you know as well as I do that he's just a bit big-headed, really. He hasn't got a clue what's going on. People take advantage of him. He could be getting into rather serious danger. Can't you run any faster? We're losing Tiddles. Look, there they are up ahead, Senny and that woman. Cenopod and Seraphina were marching along the street some way in front, deep in conversation with Cenopod's bandages flapping behind him as he strode along. He cut quite a figure. Where will my palace be? Asked the pharaoh. It will be made of marble, of course, from the Upper Nile. Most certainly, your hugely royal highness. The Upper Nile, simpered Seraphina, a cheerful smile completely masking her evil thoughts. Behind that smile she was thinking to herself, this man is a fool. Soon I shall get him home and he will be completely in my power and we shall have that treasure map off him in no time at all. As for Cenopod, he was just loving it. Someone was treating him like royalty at last. Not like that scruffy family and that girl who kept complaining every time he pinched her eyeliner. No, this was the real thing. This woman was obviously someone who was going to treat him properly, with all the pomp and splendour that he deserved. And I shall need 16 bathrooms, Cenopod declared. Of course, everyone should have 16 bathrooms. Only the pharaoh has 16 bathrooms, Cenopod corrected her. The rest can make do with buckets. That's fine, nodded Seraphina. Buckets for the rest of the world. Come on, not far to go now. Seraphina cast a backward glance. The hairs on the back of her neck were prickling and she had the distinct feeling that they were being followed. She failed to notice Crusher of Worms trotting along quite happily, almost at Senny's feet. She also failed to see Ben and Carrie suddenly dart out of sight for fear of being spotted. However, she did notice the ambulance. It had been following them now for some minutes, keeping pace with Seraphina's walking speed. The lights weren't flashing, the siren was silent, but it was clear that the ambulance was trailing them. Her face at the passenger window was staring out at her. What on earth were they up to? The ambulance put on a little spurt so that it was now cruising right beside Cenopod and Seraphina. The passenger window slid down and a paramedic called to them. Where are you two off to then? Mind your own business, snapped Seraphina. This is our business, insisted the paramedic. That's one of our hospital patients there. He shouldn't be out on the streets in this condition. Seraphina relaxed and smiled. It was just a stupid mistake caused by all the bandages. It could easily be explained. No, 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 he's not a patient, she corrected. He's an ancient Egyptian pharaoh from the 4th dynasty. Really? And I'm the king of China. Come on, let's get him into the ambulance and we'll take him back to hospital. Seraphina stopped, and so did the ambulance. She scowled at the paramedic. I'm telling you, he's not one of your patients. He's a pharaoh. In that case, you won't mind if we ask him who he is, said the paramedic. The ambulance doors opened and out stepped 2 of them. Would you mind telling us your name, sir? Cenobod was not going to utter his real name because that was sacred. My name is He whose name shall rumble down the ages, he declared. Nobody has a stupid name like that, said the other paramedic. I think you had better get back into the back of the ambulance quietly, or I shall have to inject you with a tranquilizer. You can't do this, cried Seraphina, stepping between Cenopod and the paramedics. This man is the face of the future. Really? Well, I don't like the look of his face at all. He's wearing eyeliner and rouge. All the ancient Egyptians wore eyeliner and rouge, Seraphina yelled. Didn't they teach you anything at school? Listen, lady, are you going to let us take this patient back to the hospital or not? Definitely not, bellowed Seraphina, and she began struggling with the paramedics. Cenopod flung open both arms and roared, Begone, foul pests! How dare you manhandle my true servant? I shall crush you beneath my feet like small beetles. The paramedics glanced at each other and nodded as one. He's definitely gone mad. Right, you, into the ambulance. And without further ado, Cenopod was bundled unceremoniously into the ambulance, and away it went with the siren wailing. That left Seraphina standing by the side of the road, stamping her feet and bellowing after the rapidly disappearing vehicle. You stupid fools! I almost got him home. The treasure was almost in my grasp. I'll find you, she screeched. I'll find you wherever you are. She searched through her handbag, grabbed her mobile and quickly dialed home. That idiot's gone and got himself kidnapped by paramedics, she yelled down the phone to an astonished Grimstone. They must have taken him to the local hospital. I'm going to get a taxi there right now and get him back. Once I've explained everything properly, they'll understand. You two see if you can do something useful until I get back, right? Seraphina shoved the phone back in her bag, waved one fat arm high up in the air and screeched at the top of her voice, Taxi! Nobody seemed to notice the very sleek and elegant black cat that was now trotting purposefully up the road. Crusher of Worms had no idea where the hospital was, but somehow he could sense where his master was, and he was going to make sure that they were reunited. This whole drama had also been watched by Carrie and Ben. They had taken care not to get themselves involved. They wanted to see what would happen, and they were as surprised as Seraphina was when Cenopod was stuffed into the ambulance and removed. Where do you think they'll take him? Pondered Ben. Carrie put a finger to her chin and gave a theatrical frown. Now I wonder where ambulances normally go. All right, stupid question, admitted Ben. We better get back and tell Mum and Dad. So they turned and headed back to the house. Mr. and Mrs. Lightspeed were very concerned to learn what had been going on. I can't believe such a thing could happen, complained Mrs. Lightspeed. Why on earth did they think he was a hospital patient? Mum, he was covered from head to toe in designer bandages, explained Carrie. Ever since that Face of the Future competition, Cenopod's worn nothing else. Then he went around cursing the ambulance men in his usual friendly way. Not only did he look like an escaped patient, he acted like a madman. Why didn't you stop them? Asked Mr. Lightspeed. Ben and Carrie glanced at each other. Neither of them felt they were on very safe ground. They had no evidence to prove that something odd was going on, only their gut feelings. The woman who came and spoke to Senny, she was weird, said Ben. Darling, Cenopod's weird, said Eve Lightspeed, smiling. Yeah, I know, but she was promising him a palace and handmaidens and everything. He believed her, but I didn't. I mean, nobody can go around promising palaces and handmaidens, can they? Mr. Lightspeed shook his head. That's true, and it does make things seem a bit fishy. I'm afraid there's more bad news too. Your mum and I were just watching the news on telly. Grimstone and Jelly have escaped. What? Chorused the kids in dismay. Exactly. I think we better try and find Cenopod fast before he gets himself into serious trouble. He's obviously been taken to the nearest hospital, so it shouldn't be difficult to track him down. But I reckon those two criminals will be after him too. Come on, into the ice cream van. It's time we went and played Hunt the Pharaoh. Tomorrow's chapter's called Hospitalised.